Welcome to the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Dose of Madness. I am 1/3 of your hosting menage a trois. My name is Josh.
And I am another member of your taint-laden host, Andrew.
And I am the last third that brings it all together, Daniel. And before we get into this episode, we thought we'd change up our plugs a little bit and then put them at the start this time for those of you who may not actually listen all the way till the end of the episode. Which understood. Like, you're fine.
Sometimes,
first among those...
sometimes you can only get
what?
your fill of meat and potatoes, and then you have to put the bowl down. We get it.
No, it's true.
It's cool. We're not judging.
But that's why it's at the start now.
A lot.
Or at least for this one.
Also, if you have gone ahead and gotten to the end of an episode and heard us start doing our plugs and gone, that's not for me, that's also totally fine. We totally understand that, but you might have actually missed something you like. So this time we're going to put them at the beginning. And if you just want to give us a little bit of time here to talk about them, you may actually find out new things that you didn't know before. So first, we're going to start with our Discord. Our Discord is super fun. Currently it has a little over 100 members. Not all of them are super active. A lot of them are definitely lurkers. So if that's you, please do not feel like you have to be contributing every day. There are people who contribute. There are people who don't. But everybody is welcome, and we love each and every one of you, regardless of whether you are a content creator or a content enjoyer. But come and chat with us. We would love to go ahead and have you guys there and, find out what's going on, because we do usually put things up there before, well, just about anywhere else, because it is sort of our home base. Also, come and chat with us on Twitter. If you want to go ahead and shoot us stuff on Twitter, that's super fun as well. The Discord is more of a discussion. Twitter is a little bit more of a tweet at. So if you're feeling like you want to tweet at us, great. If not, then definitely Discord is a super fun place to go. There are so many fun people in the Discord. It's super great. And as I said last week, one of our Discordians said that it was his favorite Discord. So come and see what all the fuss is about.
There's some pretty dank memes in there. Just telling you.
There are some super dank memes.
We don't mean just Wheel of Time.
The dankest.
We don't mean just Wheel of Time.
We actually do talk a little bit about other stuff. And it is certainly, if you are, first and foremost a Wheel of Timer, but you also enjoy other Brandon Sanderson works, or talking about just crazy theories in like life, the universe, and everything, or want to talk about Star Wars or anything like that, we are down, because we are,
pardon me, sir,
many nerds.
Are you insinuating that we do not stay on topic? I couldn't even say that.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure everybody already knows that. And if you didn't know that,
continue.
Definitely check out the fucking Patreon.
So yeah, a link to the Discord is in the description of every episode, as well as on the left side of the website when you visit our hosting site at blacktowerpod.podbean.com. And if, again, you don't want to go there, or you're getting your podcast from somewhere else, totally understandable. Just shoot us a message on Twitter or email or anything like that, and we'll be happy to shoot you the invite through whatever medium makes you comfortable.
Why? Because we're here for you.
We are.
Now, we know that you've already joined our Discord. And we know you already download our episode on Podbean. But maybe you just want a little bit more. And you just, every day you wake up and you go, gosh, I wish I had more madness. Because who doesn't want more madness?
And where do we find that more madness, Josh?
Well, you're already on Discord. You're already listening to us on Podbean, but there may be something you're not under. Hashtag blame the taint. This moment of inability to speak is brought to you by
Shy-tan.
It's everywhere. Embrace it.
What do you do when you get Shy-tan down your throat?
Swallow. Yeah, I swallow. Don't judge.
I mean, why make a mess when you don't have to?
That's a fucking life lesson and a half.
Just remember, it's way easier to pass later than to get out of your hair.
That's true. So what I was trying to get at was that if you need more in your life, which I know you all do.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
We have a Patreon.
Woo!
Yay, Patreon. If you'd like to support us and help offset our costs, because right now we're paying for a majority of the episode out of our own pockets. And what we like to do, because we do it for you guys, we really do. And the only reason I'm even pushing this is because I don't want you to think it's a cash grab. It kind of is, but not for profit. It's because what we need is a couple more dollars to bring better content for you guys and more content for you guys. And the more we can do that, the happier we are and the happier I know you guys are. So if that's something you're interested in, you got a couple extra bucks at the end of every month that you're not doing anything with, you can go to patreon.com/blacktowerpod. We always include a link in our episodes as well. You can go check it out. There are, different tiers. This is standard Patreon, guys. You know Patreon by now. Patreon's a thing. Everybody knows Patreon. But, it's like the old, remember in high school when you'd be like, dude, if you could get 1 million people to give you $1, you'd have $1 million. It's true, though. It's the power of the people, making things. And, crowdfunding is the future. You guys can be a part of it. You guys are awesome. We love you and all of the goodness that therein lies.
Wait, 1 million, $1, carry the one.
Yep, you got this. It'll just give him a minute, folks. He'll catch it.
Divide by
70. No, among the different things that we can do if we have the funding to is host panels at different conventions. We can host meetups on different parts of the country. As many of you know, I'm in Utah. Daniel is in California, and Andrew is in South Carolina. So we are a nationwide podcast. We love you. Actually, we're a worldwide podcast. We've got listeners all over the world.
29 plus countries.
We love all of you, and we just want to show more of that love to you. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd absolutely love to have it. If not, that's cool too. Keep listening, keep having fun, and keep stocking up on that madness, because you won't.
I like the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh shit, that is $1 million. You're right.
Jesus Christ.
Told you.
You light-blinded fool.
Sorry, I went through the California public school system. It didn't teach me so good.
Don't feel bad. South Carolina didn't do too much better.
Words are hard.
No, words is okay. It's why say lot words when few words make
Better.
math was the problem.
Math. Fuck you, math.
So the last of these plugs, if you will, is going to be something you guys probably haven't heard of before. Might have been tweeted out once very, very long ago in a galaxy far, far away. But it is our merch shop.
Was it many ages ago?
Possibly.
In a galaxy very, very akin to our own.
I don't remember, and I'm too lazy to scroll through Twitter that long. But we do have a merch shop. It is still in its infancy. It's fairly new. There'll be items and designs that will be added as we're able to create them. We are working pretty heavily on coming up with new designs for a couple different things, and they'll be added to that. So right now, if you wanted to, you could go and grab yourself quality t-shirts, hoodies, water bottles, coffee mugs, and there's a bunch of other things. There's a bandana for your dog. There's a little mouse pad. I think there's even bibs and beanies for babies. Because what better way to start off a young child's life than exposing them to the taint of the Black Tower?
Dude, hey, everybody wants to be in the Black
Oh.
Tower.
So these items are made and the orders are fulfilled by Spreadshirt. Most people know what Spreadshirt is. They make very good quality stuff and they have amazing customer service. So if you do order something and it's not the quality that you expected, that you know you should have gotten, they will definitely handle that for you. A lot of the items are highly customizable, so you can put your own kind of spin on them. You can add your name or Ashaman kill or things like that to whatever you order. And of course, if you do, we want to see it. Show us. Tweet a picture of it at us on Twitter or tag us in a photo on Instagram so we can see what you've done with it and what you've gotten and how much you enjoy it. Just like with Patreon, any money we make from the merch shop goes right back into the podcast so we can do more stuff for you guys, the listeners, and keep the show going and growing. There's a link to the shop on our Podbean as well on the far left side of the website, and there will also be one put on in the descriptions of our episodes. So it's there. It's on Spreadshirt. There's currently one design available, but in the relatively near future, more designs will be coming to you.
All right, everybody. And with all of those wonderful shameless plugs out of the way, which I think that was actually one of the fastest we've ever done those plugs, so we might want to just keep them at the beginning forever. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Some of you,
because we're always improving.
Yes, always improving.
Forever getting better.
Last week, if you listened to our episode, you may already know what this episode's going to be about. If this is the first episode you've ever listened to, well, gosh darn, you're in for a treat. But before we can confirm those of you being right and excite those of you who are here for the first time, we need to protect you. We need to shield you. Not in the Rand way, but shield you.
Wait, weaving spirit?
From potential danger.
Wrong shield. Okay, my bad.
But yes, it's the good old Age of Legends style spoiler shield.
Mm-hmm. Made mostly of air.
Mm-hmm. This episode contains spoilers up to and through A Memory of Light, the final book in the Wheel of Time series. If you have not completed the series or you wish to avoid being spoiled, we suggest you stop listening here. We'll still be here when you finish the series and come back to listen because we are there in the shadows waiting like a golem. And I explicitly chose golem and not Murdrawl because we're far more dangerous.
A little something in the wine? Not yet. I'm not mad. Not yet.
So,
all right.
What's this episode about?
So this episode, as some of you have already figured out and have already told us, is going to be about the melding of our episode 2 episodes ago and our episode last week for Thoraine.
Thoraine.
Hey, I'm going to give a shout out to our Discord member and Patreon, Mr. Jack O' the Shadows, because he called this one, like he nailed it straight up on the head. Jack O' Shadows in our Discord. You guys can reach out to him and tell him he's a smart motherfucker, because he messaged me a few days ago. He's like, I think I know what the next episode's about. And we were like, what do you think the next episode's about? And he's like, Thoraine. And we were like, dude, Thoraine, either way, I don't care. And I was like, bro, I'm not going to give it away, but if you could see my face right now, I'd be winking.
True.
Yeah, because we did say at the end of the last episode that this episode may or may not be on this topic, because we might have had something else to talk about before this. I do kind of like spreading these out so it's not the exact same thing of sorts back to back. Like, here's a character, then here's a character, then here's both the characters together. kind of
But
like.
we've
space
never
stuff like that.
actually done them in order before, so this will be
That's
the
true.
first time that we actually do them in 3 episodes. So I feel like we're still doing pretty okay.
I wish
Yeah,
I
we're
could
good.
last long enough to do people for 3 episodes.
Heyo! All right. That's what you're here for, ladies and gentlemen.
That's why you love us.
That's why you're here.
And that's also why you don't listen to us using a speaker at work. And if you do, either you have a really dope, chill workplace, or you just are ballsy as fuck, and we love it either way.
Or you're mad with the taint. And
Or
you have taken us to heart, and you truly embrace that taint.
Or you are your own boss and you come into work and you just slap down your big old black tower on the table and say, if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Do you see bungholes and get angry like we do? Because we do, because we're mad with the taint. What is it there for? What does it do? Why does it smell so weird?
Moiraine plus Thom. Now, as I said a little bit in the pre-show, I'm actually quite excited to discuss this topic. Here's why. And I'm not cutting anybody off, am I?
Let me count the ways.
Hey,
Let me count the ways.
we have a thing in Zencaster where we can raise hands if we really need to talk. So
I mean, you're not
do you,
wrong.
boo boo? Do you?
I'm
boo-boo.
doing me. I'm doing me right now.
That's
Oh,
me
God.
every day.
Hey, wow.
Is it going to be the whole episode or are you
Maybe.
it's going to be done in a couple minutes?
We'll see. So
We are
Thom
using
and
protection,
Moiraine,
so you might last a little longer.
they first meet in Emmons Field in the Eye of the World, book 1. Like, it's not even that far into the series. It's like several chapters in. People are like jonesing that there's a gleeman in town, and oh, there's a lady. Oh my God. People are freaking out about this. And at that point in time, as you know from listening to our previous episode, Thom is severely skilled and severely mistrusting of Aes Sedai. He hates them because of what they did to his nephew. So he hates Aes Sedai. Moiraine blows into town and she's like, I'm gonna take these 3 boys because that's how I do. And he immediately has like feels about this because his nephew was that age when he was taken by Aes Sedai, and he jumps into this plot half cursing himself, half making sure that these boys don't get pulled into a plot. And
Little does he know that he's actually being pulled into the plot of 14 books, not pulling them out of a plot.
It's true. He gets sucked in like a leaf on the current of the Ta'veren. So
He is a leaf on the wind.
Oh,
Watch him soar.
Don't do that. Don't.
I did.
Don't. My heart is not ready for this. My heart is not.
Is he 2 petals shy of a weed leaf?
I'm a chora leaf on the
Chora
wind.
leaf on the wind. Maybe if Wash had been a chora leaf, he wouldn't have gotten paled. There, I said it.
Spoilers!
Hang on.
So, he signs on to help these boys out. They leave Emmons Field. You know, of course, they get tracked down by Trollocs. They get separated. They meet back up. And this whole time, Thom is kind of there. He kind of splits off for a little bit, but he comes back. And here's the part that confuses me. Up until this point, so, and again, you guys have already received the spoiler warning, so if you've been spoiled right now, this is your own fault. They go to Tyr.
Man's
The
not
stone
wrong.
of Tyr
Spoiled right
falls. Rand is in the stone. Thom is maneuvering using Dias Damar to help support Rand. He's a genius. Moiraine comes to him, visits him one night, and basically says, I know who you are. You're a wily genius, you silver fox. It's kind of a flirty exchange, okay? But that's the last exchange they have before she goes through the door Tirangreal with Lanfear. If I'm wrong, correct me. But that's the last exchange they have.
That is correct. That is the
so
last
much more.
on-screen exchange.
So
that they have.
There's so much more
Now-
potentially in-depth stuff that we can go into that literally goes from where you started talking to where you just finished talking.
now, and this is this is the point that I'm getting at, because when next we, because then Thom goes off to Tanchico, he goes off to Ebodar, and he's helping the, Nynaeve and Elaine track down the Black Sisters, and he and Julian get into a little bit of a measuring contest. It's great. It's awesome. It's wonderful. I love it. And next thing you know, Moraine's tackling Lanfear in a twisted frame door terangrial.
On a
And
Sunday
before that,
night
she's
episode
given-
of Aes Sedai Wrestling.
She's
This Sunday.
Sunday,
Thorane
Sunday,
takes
Sunday.
on Lanfear in a no
the
holds
blue
barred.
who kidnapped you takes on the white with silver belts.
In a
So
no holds barred
My
red
God,
door
she
frame.
just Batista bombed her through a red terangrial.
So Moiraine gives letters to Rand and says, you need to read this one after tomorrow. And then she gives another one. She says, this one's just for Thom. Please give it to Thom. And I'm going to be out. Now, there is on YouTube, Sarah Nakamura, hashtag she's awesome, hashtag super awesome Black Tower podcast. Shout out to Sarah E. Nakamura. She's one of the showrunners. She's one of the people
Quick
working on the Wheel
addition.
of Time TV show.
Quick
She's
addition to
super
that.
awesome.
Quick
Since we
addition
brought
to
up-
that.
In a quick addition to that, since we brought up Sarah, if you're one of the absolute utter asshats sending her hate messages,
Oh my God.
it's crusading time, all right? We're watching out
Yeah.
for you. Leave her the fuck alone, all right? She's doing a fantastic job. The rest of the writing room is doing a fantastic job. And just because you haven't seen a picture of somebody or you don't like the way that the news is being brought out doesn't mean you start sending her hate messages on Twitter. So if you are one of those people with all the feeling I can muster behind my heart and soul, go fuck yourself off a bridge.
And it was the
If you
same
stop this hate
reaction.
mail, we'll leave it at that.
And
No
it-
one
it
will
was
find
the s-
you. No one
It
will
was
look
the
for
same
you.
reaction.
But if you
when
continue
people-
to send hate mail to Sarah Nakamura, I will find you, and I will kill you.
or any of the showrunners. Rafe got hate messages because there was a rumor going around that Perrin was gay or something stupid. This is, come on,
No,
people,
it
get
was
over yourself.
it was hate mail that fueled that. He was like, if I keep getting death threats or whatever, or like hate mail, I'm just gonna make one of your favorite characters gay. And
Oh,
then
that's right.
people like
That's
put
right.
in that it was gonna be Lan and Perrin. And like a handful of girls on the and guys, sorry, that was almost sexist and it was not intended to be. Just creamed a little for the idea that Perrin and Lan would get together, and I mean, like, sure, great.
I mean, I don't really see him saying, I'm going to make one of the characters gay as like a threat, because at the end of the day, he is still responsible for making an outstanding show from an outstanding series.
Exactly.
Though I don't like deviating too much from the series, if he's going to do it, it's going to be done in a way that is good to the series. I have faith. So
No,
I
it's
don't,
true,
I don't
but I
see,
feel like-
oh, I'm going to make somebody gay as like an actual threat. Where it's, I mean, it is probably a valid threat against the people sending the ignorant
Exactly, and
messages.
that's basically what he was doing. The things that he was getting were sort of along those lines or along similar lines, and so he was like, fuck it, I'll just make somebody gay. It wasn't like a threat, it was like if you don't like that, then I'm just gonna do more and deal with it, because this isn't your show, B, you're being babies about this, and C, like, again, I'm going to do the best show I can, and if that means that Perrin's gay, then Perrin's gay. Like, deal with it. Now, again, he never said Perrin. Or at least I don't think he ever said Perrin.
He what he did was he was like, people have been sending me hate mail. Guess what? Perrin's gay now, or something like
Oh, he
that.
did. He
But
did.
It was
Okay.
straight up him just saying,
Yeah, it was him shooting the shit. It was funny.
it was
Guys,
him
stop taking
trolling
rumors.
the haters.
Stop taking rumors and speculation so seriously. You didn't see me getting upset whenever who I thought was going to actually be Suon turned out to be Leanne.
Yeah, no, it's
Like,
just stupid.
And I'm not
Yeah,
saying like
and
I'm
you
the
didn't
bastion of
see us
morality,
getting
but
upset when the rumor was that Lindsay Lohan was going to play Elaine,
that shit was actually kind of
or
funny.
that Rosie O'Donnell was going to play. Who was it that she was it like Moghedian or something?
Might have been Darren or
Grandal.
something. Anyway,
Those were funny.
that
Honestly,
aside.
whoever's doing that parody, like Wheel of Time on Wheel of Prime on Time, fucking keep
with
it
the
up, 'cause
upside down
that's
logo, the
fucking
shit's fucking hilarious. Please do it
That's so
because
funny.
though it may not be actual casting news, it provides so much entertainment for the Twitter of Time and the Wheel of Time community in the meantime while we're waiting for the next juicy nugget of information. But anyway,
Yes, and to
Josh,
the
you were
people
saying-
and to Nathan, feel like it's Nate, the
don't
guy
know.
who's doing. I am so sorry that I'm going to butcher your name because I'm not looking at it. But Weekly Wheel News, fucking you keep it up too. That shit is
That's Rob
hilarious. I don't.
Christensen.
There we go. That's what I meant. Though that one. Did I mention that I didn't know his name and that I was fucking it up?
Didn't he? Isn't
Like,
today, as we're
super
recording,
hard.
isn't the 29th his birthday as well?
Oh shit, is it?
Let me double check.
Well done.
I think it is.
Well done,
I
sir.
think it is. Let me see, because he tweeted
Rob
something.
Christensen, happy fucking birthday.
Okay, so
because
he put out 2 hours ago, as we're recording this,
Happy
at
Name Day.
almost 9 p.m. EST.
Oh
sounds
shit,
like
he
about-
got his sword today?
What?
He got his sword today.
However many years ago today,
Yes,
he got his sword.
yes,
right.
yes, that he did.
It's okay.
So,
on my
um,
name day,
and
I
on-
also got my sword.
On the topic for Rob, brother, if you're listening to this, I just saw your tweet. I don't know if the other guys have, but for those that love what Weekly Wheel News does and what Rob does, he found out last night, so the night leading up to his birthday, that he may have multiple myeloma cancer. So it was caught very
Fuck.
early, though, on a fluke, and he might have a fully clear PET scan. He's gonna have a marrow biopsy coming, brother. We're hoping the best for you, and if there's anything that we can do over here at the Black Tower Podcast, please just let us know. All right.
Absolutely. Fucking Dammer Flynn is on deck. You let us fucking know. Also, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Because that shit's scary as
Take
shit.
care, brother, and again, let us know if there's
True.
anything we can do. But Josh, initially you were talking something about on the lines of Sarah Nakamura.
Well, Sarah Nakamura had filmed a short YouTube video. I can't find it, and I'm sorry. I meant to have it.
Probably had it on your desktop.
queued
but your
up for you
desktop doesn't
guys.
like us or Zencast.
Yeah, and but anyway, it's Sarah Nakamura, and she's reading the letter that she wrote to Thom. Okay, and it's actually really great. It's a really cool little video, and I love it a lot. But we go from the point that I was getting to is that we go from her and Thom having this kind of flirty interaction where she says, yeah, dude, I got your number. I know who you are. You're the Silver Fox. You play Diastamar in your sleep. You're awesome, and you're helping Rand, and I think it's awesome that you're doing that. Please keep doing that. I'm a go. You need to go to Tanchico. If you don't go to Tanchico, the world will die. Like, she's basically sharing some of her Aes Sedai knowledge
You mean
with him.
blackmail? Do it or we're all doomed. I swear,
nice.
I know.
That's a less nice way of saying it, but yes.
So
we get that. Thom goes on these adventures in Tanchico. Moiraine goes to the Aiel Waste, finds Ruidian, and they do these big things. And then Moiraine goes through the Terangreal and disappears with Lanfear. And she's gone until Towers of Midnight. But the whole time, Thom is there. And he's doing this, and he's doing that, and he's helping here, and he's helping there. And it's just, it's a really great interaction, and I love it. But the letter she wrote him was like basically expressing this like undying love and this undying connection they have. And then when it comes time to rescue her, Thom's like, I'm in. And they're all like, oh, shit, okay. And then they rescue her, and it's like all of a sudden this like super loving relationship between the two. And I'm kind of like, wait, when did this happen? And so what I'm hoping is that you guys will clear this up for me and tell me when they fell in love, because, huh?
Oh yeah. So during my research, thoughts, shameless Google searches, whatever you want to call it, um, yesterday into today, I came across a lot of theories, discussions, topics on it. If you're a patron, you would have heard a bit of this conversation already. Went back to some of the source material and started looking at the events that transpire surrounding Thom and Moiraine from book one on through the lens of what indicates that there's any kind of relationship between these two. And I've written a bunch of them down here in our show notes. And just in case you guys maybe are curious and want to see them, let us know. And if the show notes continue to be a thing, which I'm hoping to make them continue to be a thing, we might be able to make that available on Patreon. I know there's some other people that do that, and I don't want to necessarily piggyback off of something they've done. But if you guys want to see the kind of prep work that we do moving forward, that is potential. So, for this first block that I put together, I titled it Early Contact. Obviously, meaning early contact between Thom and Moiraine. Um, so, the first part of this is Thom and Moiraine would have known of each other early on from their time around noble families. Obviously, Thom was bard to Lady Morgaze Trachond, and later court bard to then Queen Morgaze after he helped her secure the throne, and also after her marriage to Tarangale Damodred.
And they was knocking boots at one
After
point in time.
Tarangale Damodred dies, yes, they do become lovers. And remember, it was Tarangale Damodred who was the father of Galad. It almost makes me throw up to say this name. Gawain and Elaine. Now, at the same time, obviously much younger, Moiraine is a part of the Damodred family, which results in her being related to Galad, Gawain, and Elaine by nature of being their aunt. That blood relation coming through Tarangale. So, if nothing else, whenever Queen Morgaze was crowned, whenever she took over the Lion Throne, and the Rose Crown, right? It is the Rose Crown for Andor, right?
Yes.
Correct.
They would have very likely been at royal parties and balls at the same time, and they would have met and hung out with the same people. Thom, by nature of being a court bard, as far as he openly was considered at the time, we know by Thom's history that he was far more than a court bard. He was already a very talented player in Deus Damar. He was also a very well accomplished assassin, as well as bodyguard for Morgaze. Which those talents are what helped Morgaze attain the throne. But whenever they would have parties and stuff, of course, the court bard or even just the bard to Lady Morgaze would be there performing, turning tricks, and Moiraine, who would have
Turning tricks.
Moiraine, who would have been
trick is trick is something a whore does for money, Michael. What I do are illusions.
So Moiraine, being age 16 or less, would have been a party to these events, and given young nature, very likely attracted to what Thom was doing. It's very entertaining, telling stories in high chant, reciting ballads, songs, juggling his balls in front of women under 16.
We all know what high chant does to the ladies.
Because I can, and we all know that we mean it's not anything actually nasty.
We all know what high chant does to the ladies.
Oh yeah, it's a bloomer dropper. They drop their shift. Their shifts. So,
they're silken shifts.
They're silken shifts. They're noble shifts for on the floor like peasants. So this does result in a significantly higher chance and probability that Moiraine knew who Thom was, rather than him truly knowing her and who she was. Now, naturally, Thom, by playing Deus Damar, being this bodyguard and assassin, would be aware of the members of the noble families, especially after the marriage of Terengale and Queen Morghese. So he would have known who Moiraine was, because when you play Deus Namar, especially in Caemlyn and Kyrian, you have to know who's in line for the thrones, so that you know who's going to have something to gain by things. This is information that Thom would know just by virtue of doing what he does. So he would have known who Moiraine was. So he would have been aware whenever Moiraine was discovered to have the spark, the ability to be trained to channel, and would have known that when she left for the White Tower at age 16. Now, thanks to the closeness of the Aes Sedai or the White Tower to the Lion Throne, obviously, in Caemlyn, Thom would have had very reasonable access to who around him was Aes Sedai, and that's an avenue to which he would know that Moiraine was identified as someone that had the ability to channel, could learn to channel, and eventually decided to go to the White Tower to learn to channel. It would seem to foster a dislike of Moiraine. However, Thom has a clear understanding of the Ajas, a clear enough understanding of the different Ajas and what they do, to not blame Moiraine for what happens with Owen and his gentling and subsequent suicide. So it doesn't do anything to taper down his hatred of Aes Sedai, but he would know enough about what the different Ajas kind of do and the roles they kind of fulfill to not look at Moiraine when she is raised to the Shaw as a member of the Blue Aja as someone that would have had a hand in what happened to his nephew.
Yes.
Due to family connections and the connection of the Aes Sedai, Moiraine would have probably gotten word of Thom's actions and leaving Caemlyn on bad terms over Owen's capture and death. While she was training in the tower, she would, of course, have heard what happened to yet another male that could channel, that was gentle. And being of nobility, she would have very likely received letters talking about, surprising news from the Lion Throne in Caemlyn. The court bard has been exiled, and if he's found and caught, is to be beheaded. And then, of course, after being raised to the Shaw and Moiraine having more access to this information, and combined with her nature and fierce loyalty to family and friends, she would have learned the very specifics. And we see that fact is confirmed later on by virtue of things she tells Thom and things she offers Thom as part of that blackmail that's not really blackmail to get him to go and help Nynaeve and Elaine and Tanchico. So that's what I've classified as their early contact. So that's all going to be stuff prior to where we see the two together in Eye of the World at Amon's Field.
Okay. So, I mean, I see where you're going with this, and I understand and appreciate that they would be acquainted with each other, but they wouldn't be more than acquaintances, would they?
Agreed. What I'm doing here is I'm laying down a framework for them to know who each other is.
You're being foundationalist.
Oh, yeah. I'm laying down a foundation of concrete atop bedrock.
Boy,
trying to at least.
I love it. So, you know what? I will say this. We've got a bit of what I'm going to call an R2-D2 problem, right? Because when Thom and Moiraine meet in Emond's Field, they should know each other, right? But they don't. They don't, or they're acting like they don't.
Because again, while granted, Moiraine would not necessarily have been that active in this family. They would know about each other probably. And certainly, again, there is this strong thing that they very well may have attended parties together, and I absolutely agree with that. Again, I'm not saying, oh, you're wrong here. That's pretty likely. But again, she is from a royal family in Kyrian. Now, Terengale Damodred does marry Morghese Tricant. So it's certainly, they have close ties from Caemlyn to Kyrian. But at the same time, she is an Aes Sedai. And she's basically an Aes Sedai first. And so she
Yes.
probably wouldn't have been at that many of these parties, though probably a couple.
Yeah, I mean, up until the age
Okay.
of 16, being a child of the noble family, she would have been drugged to the marriage of Tarangale and Morgaze. That would have been a significant noble
But
event.
she's not under 16 when that happens.
Isn't she? What age
No,
when do they get
she
married?
is almost as old as Thom. And so
Yes.
Moiraine is definitely not young enough to have been under 16 when Morgaze and Tarangale got married.
Fair enough. I don't know the date of birth for Thom. We do know that Moiraine was born in 956 NE.
And it's now 999, presumably. So
It's been 43
Moiraine
years.
is at least in her 50s.
No, she
Yeah,
should be
and we
around
know that
40.
Or
Moraine's-
roughly 40, mid 40s.
Yeah.
Mid 40s.
The
And
thing
so
at the
presumably
youngest.
if Galad is somewhere in his 20s, and Tarangale and Morgaze probably would have gone ahead and started getting busy pretty much right away to have kids, then she was probably about 20 when that happened. Probably. Now, again, there's a little bit of leeway there. There's a little bit of whatever. And certainly I don't have the exact... Well, actually, when was Galad born? How old is Galad?
It stands to reason that
Look it
he's
up.
in his mid-20s because Elaine is...
Yes, Elaine
if
and
I-
Gawain are both about 16 to 18.
Yeah, they're younger, and Galad is 5-ish years older than them. I know
Yeah.
he's the older
We
sibling.
have no birth date for Galad.
And,
that I can find. Let me see. I'm sure we have one for Elaine.
There isn't one.
Elaine, yeah, there wasn't one that I could find. Elaine was born in 981 NE.
So if Galad is 5-ish years older than her, then he was in 76.
So correct, yeah,
which
Moiraine would
would
have
mean
already been
that
gone to the White
Moraine's
Tower.
20-ish.
At the time of the marriage,
Yeah.
probably.
But again, all of this to say that one of the big things here is that Thom, while he is having his tryst with Morgaze and is a big deal in Camelin and whatnot, this is about 10 years, maybe 15 years before the events of the Eye of the World. Somewhere between 10 and 15. It's hard to say how many it is. It is at the point where Elaine remembers him, so she has memories of Thom, but they were such young memories that she's having a hard time remembering them.
Except for the tugging of the mustache.
So we're talking for Thom as a normal human being at that point in his life, he has probably changed significantly in the 10 years since he left Camelin, especially given that in Camelin, he was probably very stressed. So, I mean, like, there was certainly, a lot of that going on. But he's been living a little rough since then.
They even mentioned that at one point in time, is that someone who goes from, 20 to 50 changes much more than someone who goes from 10 to 20.
Yeah. And so Moiraine probably is not a whole lot different, but she was also at the White Tower by the time that Thom really would have been caring what she was up to. And Thom is, would have been in his 50s when he started this tryst with Morgaze. And now he's got to be at least in his 60s. Or at least the early 60. And 50 to 60 is a pretty major change.
True.
Yes.
So they, I'm sure, know of each other, and I can guarantee that both of them along the journey absolutely realize that they're talking to and traveling with and blah, 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 this person who they knew of. Because Moiraine is absolutely figuring out that this is the Silver Fox of Camelin. And Thom is absolutely figuring out that this is Moiraine Damodred of House Damodred of Kyrian, like,
of
nobility.
She didn't even
steps
change
on the
her
line,
name,
and technically by blood entitled to the throne of Kyrian. technically.
Technically,
That we all know Moiraine never won.
Which she gave up.
Yes.
Right. She gave up for.
Oh yeah, because even
the
there's a
tower.
point where the tower
Indeed.
pressures her and says you should lay claim to the throne, and she's like, nah,
Nah.
I can't tell y'all, but
like,
I've
"How
got
about
other things
now?"
to do. And she tells them, being an Aes Sedai as the Blue Aja and serving the world and protecting the world is far more important. But in her mind, she's like, I got a dragon to find, motherfuckers. I can't be ruling the country.
Yes.
So it lays,
And so when
lays the
they
groundwork that they
actually
know
meet
of
each
each
other, it's not super. Yes, it's not super surprising that they don't recognize each other right away. But it is actually kind of in the story suggested that they realize who they're traveling with in
given
not too
the
awful long.
scale of Moiraine and Tom's intellect, it is inevitable that at some point, if nothing else, by the time the events of Winter Night happen, that one or both of them has determined who the other one is.
Very
Especially
possibly.
in a
Strong
in a
possibility.
small backwoods bumfuck hillbilly town. We're making Amon's Field sound so bad. It's really not. But, such a small town where people talk about the slightest news. It would make sense that they would be easily able to figure out who's this new person. And then, fortunately for Thom, Moiraine has to play more of a hand at revealing who and what she is when the Trollocs attack.
Correct.
Which does prompt his further actions. So,
though I feel like they actually kind of give away who Thom is as well. Like he kind of outs himself by she's throwing fireballs and he's throwing knives with weirdly amazing precision.
It's all good. It must be from the juggling. Nah, bro. He's killed more people than you've ever seen alive.
Yeah. Sure. Let's go with that.
That brings me into the next segment of points.
Come at me, Sasuke. I will finish my ballad.
Oh, you are choosing to step towards me instead of run away. Oh, how can I kill you if I don't come closer?
But yes, so that is definitely how they meet each other. They actually do have a lot of history
within the same circle.
At least the right circles.
Yes.
If not actually directly with each other. And then they meet at Emmons Field. Sort of meet might be the wrong word because they might have, met a number of times before. But they come together again in Emmons Field. And there's this actually very important event that happens while they're still in Emmons Field that I think is actually one of the biggest things that really starts them down the road of this romance that sort of, again, Josh, you are absolutely not alone in many people thinking kind of comes out of nowhere. And that is that Thom, whose entire life, or at least the last many years of it, have been defined by his talent and his ability to tell stories and his ability to go ahead and have everyone just hanging on his every word, is outshined by an Aes Sedai of the Blue Aja who tells this story of a town he may never have even heard of.
Much more than a town gets there. This is an entire country.
Sorry. Of a city
nation.
and a country and a nation that he probably has heard of, but probably doesn't tell stories about because no one would recognize them. And she has this entire backwoods village hanging on every single word that she's saying. Now, granted, she does do some, kind of cheap tricks in that story a little bit because she, waves around this staff and a couple of other things. But when it comes right down to it, it is her words that are making
not that much
the
different
people
from the
listen.
11th Ball story that Inkar tells.
Exactly.
And to be fair, Thom didn't actually get a chance to perform.
Yes. He barely did a little bit like on the steps of the inn where she's now going ahead and telling her story before he's like, nah, you guys will see more later. And then Winter Night happens and he gets totally and utterly outshone by Trollocs. Because of course he does. Trollocs are dangerous. Not as dangerous as him, but no one knows that.
Precise. Well, and he does a really good job of hiding that fact as well.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
I love. You did mention in other conversations you've mentioned, Andrew. A good callback is in Terran Ferry. There are numerous times, like in Terran Ferry, where Tom does sort of a knife flourish.
We are getting there, by
You
the
know,
way.
we always love. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because I do love that Tom. You know, it always seems like to accentuate. He's so good at reading the room and reading the situation that if someone makes a threat, or if someone makes like a play at, you know, someone else's emotions, like they want to prey on someone else's uncertainty, Tom's really good at reading that, and he will usually, like, you know, flip a knife out of nowhere, do a little flourish, and then make the knife disappear again. And Moiraine sees this at Terran Ferry and giggles, like she's kind of like, that's cute. And you've brought up a good point of her possibly remembering him, and maybe that's, you know, similar to what Elena experienced. Was, I know this guy from somewhere, I can't quite place my finger on it, but whereas Moiraine was older when she had encountered the Silver Fox of Carrion, maybe, you know, that was a device that helped her go, oh yeah, I remember you sly dog, you.
Well, and just for a moment here, we didn't mention this in the Tom episode because it didn't come up, but I want to mention it now. I absolutely love just how many people Tom teaches his tricks to. Now, none of them are as good as him.
Oh yeah.
None of them are actually as successful at it as him. But Fail, Min, and Matt literally all talk about how Tom has shown them these, you know, different tricks, and how they're like practicing them, and they keep practicing them to like see if they can get as good as Tom and whatnot. And
he learned
hilarious.
From the
it's great. Tom literally shows everyone.
I mean, he learned from the tragedy of Darth Plagueis. He didn't teach everybody his best trick. So people still try to kill him in his sleep, but he didn't teach his pupils everything.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
But before we get into Terran Ferry,
it's not a story the Aes Sedai
right before Terran Ferry, there was a thought that I came across by reading, and this is not something I read. This is something that somehow magically my brain decided to cross a couple wires and make sparks. That, looking back through the lens of what could have indicated anything happening between Thom and Moiraine, that stuck out. So we all know that based off of the face value of Eye of the World in the chapter of leave takings, that, you know, they're talking about, okay, well, hey, we got this extra motherfucker because Egwene followed them here, and you know what? The will weaves as it will. She can channel. She needs to go with us anyway. We need to find a horse for her. And she's like, well, and Lan's like, maybe the Gleeman's horse. And then Tom comes out and is like, that's not going to be possible, for I am coming as well.
Yeah, not my horse, you motherfuckers.
And he does this out of a fear that Rand, Perrin, and Matt, and possibly now even Egwene, would fall under the same Aes Sedai practices that led to the death of his nephew Owen. And so Tom says, I'm following the group because I want to help keep them safe. But he tells Moiraine and Lan in the group, he's like, what Gleeman wouldn't brave danger to perform in Tar Valon? And for those of us that have read the series before and know how much Tom distrusts and dislikes Aes Sedai, it's like, the fuck you talking about, bruh? We know there's something else going on here. We know Tar Valon is not the reason you're going with them. Not something that you would know at the time, but looking back after reading further in the series and finding out about Owen, it's definitely something that would be like, hey, wait a minute. That don't make no sense. So when Tom states that he will go with the group in Tar Valon, Moiraine responds to him in a different way than she does to anybody else. For Rand, Matt, and Perrin, she deems it a must, and they must go or they will die. For Egwene, it's pretty much the same thing, but it's more of a smart move on her point rather than a must, because she can channel. And these are all seen as weaves of the wheel. The wheel weaves as it wills. Yeah, the wheel weaves, brah. But when it comes to Tom, she doesn't say to land the will weaves. He must be a part of the pattern. She looks at Thom and says, "Are you sure you want to go? It's going to be dangerous." And that's very unique for Moiraine. Because Moiraine is very much, things are happening for a reason. It must be the will of the wheel. It must be the way things need to go. But for Thom, she looks at him and basically gives him the option to say no. She says, "Are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And to me, looking back at it through the lens, it's nothing inherently romantic. It's nothing inherently, "I'm interested in you, you crazy old gray fox that I will love in the future." But it's more of a, "You're an old acquaintance. I kind of know you. I remember you from my childhood. Are you sure this is something you want to do? I'm concerned for your safety because we have some sort of history together." And it's completely different from the way she addresses anybody else coming along in their travel.
It's true.
Okay.
No, and I like that
I can
just
see
from
that.
the very beginning, in terms of,
Do you know,
just things that I didn't necessarily notice as well.
that also kind of makes me think of something else that maybe I didn't think about, and maybe you guys can point this out if I'm off base here, but maybe Moiraine doesn't actually have those strong feelings of love for Thom before going into the door, but she's been through the Aes Sedai test, she's been through the accepted test, she's been through Ruidian, she's been through, the Tirangrial and Tyr. She's done all these things to give her insight into the future. I have to believe at one of those points in time, they mentioned falling in love with a gleeman or falling in love with a silver fox.
It's very possible.
She, being smart, knows that that's going to happen. So she tells Thom, she gives him just enough, because she's not necessarily saying, "I'm in love with Thom and I'm going to make this happen and we're going to have a family and we're going to fall in love and be happy together." Maybe she knows that if she does not fall in love with Thom, or if she doesn't get Thom to fall in love with her, there are consequences down the road that will impact the outcome of Tarmangayta. Moiraine is very, very good at putting the mission first. So if she has to fall in love and have 10 kids, guess what? That's what she gonna do.
I will admit that I do actually like the idea of, very akin to the way that Avienda sees her true feelings towards Rand that she is just denying. And then is just like, "Fuck it. I can't deny these anymore because I've even seen this. I have seen the future. And I know that I love you and I can't run away from these feelings anymore." I do like the idea that, she's not the only one, that there are other people. Egwene sees herself bonding Gawain in a dream. Avienda sees, her being with Rand in the test in Ruidian. It's entirely possible that Moiraine actually does see at least some inkling of this in either Tar Valon or Ruidian. But I will admit that I like even more the fact that it does actually come from a natural, somewhat organic place. And the other thing here that's interesting, and I know I'm going to get a little bit ahead of us for just a moment, and I apologize for that.
Dare you?
The story
How
is
dare you? How dare you, sir?
This story is about Rand, right? This story is about an ensemble cast, but when it comes right down to it, the story is about
actually,
Rand.
it's about a
And so
reincarnated
Rand
soul of
has
a
the-
dragon. Oh my god.
Into Rand al'Thor. So Rand. The most sort of point of views of the entire story, if you actually add them up, it is a majority told from Rand's perspective. It is actually, the majority of the story is about Rand and Mat and Perrin. Because when it comes right down to it, Rand is the dragon reborn. And Perrin and Matt are the two Taviran who are so fucking strongly Taviran that came from the same village that they just make the story about them as well. And again, it's also about Egwene. It's also
rebirth
about
their
Elaine.
dragon.
The quote that they pulled for, the casting thing of, it was about them all is absolutely true. But the fact that just because you don't see all of the things that happen in these relatively long journeys that these characters make of a day-to-day interaction of sitting around the campfire and Moiraine and Thom talking to each other about life, the universe, and everything, isn't that surprising? When the story's not about them directly, because the story is about Rand and Matt and Perrin, and Thom and Moiraine are big pieces of that story, that it doesn't necessarily need to sit there and show you every moment that Thom and Moiraine fell in love.
True.
But they have
And
so much opportunity to do so.
I think one of the things that you're absolutely right. First off, right? I mean, the story's not about Moiraine and Thom. It's definitely about, at its most basic form, it's definitely about Rand al'Thor and how he gets from farm boy to Dragon Reborn to battling in Tarmon Gaidon, and
To Moradin.
but I would say that it's also kind of a story about how nobody does it by themselves.
True.
So one of the, that's why we have so much information about Perrin and Matt. And that's why there are several books where Rand isn't even the number one character that is written about.
No, it's totally true. Because I think actually overall he has like 56% of the entire story. But there are absolutely books where he gets like 10% of the book. And you're like, oh, okay, well this is interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really great perspective to have, and it's one of the things it mirrors one of the things I love about the Star Wars universe, okay? Where the Star Wars universe is, you've got, let's just take just the original trilogy. The Emperor,
you got Vader and Luke, and it's absolutely about them. But
yeah,
the
Emperor has he has 12 seconds of screen time in Empire Strikes Back. And he has, 30 minutes of screen time in Return of the Jedi. And he's such a huge character. He's so big as a character that he takes up a good amount of time in the prequels. And even he gets a spot in the sequels that they've just done. And it's just... I think Robert Jordan has done a really great job of building a world in that things happen even when we're not reading about Rand, even when we're not reading about Perrin, even when we're not reading about anything. He does a really great job of building a world where, hey, guess what? There's this village out in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever heard of, and there's shit happening in this village. So just thought you guys should know about that. He does a really great job at doing that. So when we talk about Thom and Moiraine, I can see a bit of, especially in Tyr. I think this would be, if we're going to talk about a courting environment, I think Tyr would be the place for it, because Thom is working his ass off, probably more than ever, playing Dias Damar, keeping the Lords of Tyr, the High Lords of Tyr, against each other and away from Rand, and protecting Rand and his sort of ascension there. Mm-hmm. And Moiraine is no dummy. She can play Dias Damar as well. Maybe not as well as Thom, but she can play Dias Damar as well. And she can see, what's happening. She can go 2 and 2 makes 4, and it's definitely the Silver Fox. So I almost wonder if, that period of time that they spend in the Stone of Tyr is sort of her gaining an admiration for Thom. And I almost wonder if Thom's, campaigning in Dias Damar, he's run into Moiraine's schemes and he's able to play off of. I almost wonder if that's where they first sort of gain that mutual respect and even a bit of an infatuation, but they're both still so caught up in the mission that they don't have
Josh,
time in their personal lives
Stop!
or
I
in
can
their
only
hearts
get so
to let
erect.
someone in for that.
As you were heading down a very, very similar, if not exactly same line train of thought that I was when writing up some of these points.
Yep.
What?
So go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah.
You had your hand up, and I would love to go ahead and hear what you think about
we've
this.
already-
'Cause, again, I have read a lot of your fucking show notes, and they're very, as you said, they're very similar.
So we already
to
talked
Josh.
about the Tarn Ferry. You know, they slip some coins to the ferry master. He leaves, comes back with some goons, and everybody takes that time to make a show of, we're not a weak party. We're not a level 1 D&D party you want to fuck with. And part of that,
I mean, some of us are, but there are a handful of level 10s that you
and
don't
Tom
wanna
does
fuck
make that
with.
show. He's like, "Oh, look, my hand's empty. What's that?" Suddenly, there's a knife in it, and Moiraine does chuckle.
Oh,
And
weird.
It could equally be a show of her just trying to add to the mystique of
Josh.
what their party can do, what their group can do. It could also be in part her remembering things from her childhood that she has seen Tom do. Like maybe she's laughing because she saw him do the same thing with some juggling balls, things like that. So later, after the events of Whitebridge, the party minus Tom has been reunited. They're traveling in the ways going to Faldara. And it's then, they're talking about all this somber news about how things don't look great. And Moiraine says that, well, as a matter of cheerful news, of good news, I don't believe Tom is dead. And she reports it as cheerful news, not just matter of fact. Now, it could be that she was trying to uplift the morale and the spirit of the group. And it could also be that she does, in fact, regard it as cheerful news, beyond just somebody not being dead. She states that there were people in Whitebridge that mentioned a Gleeman being there, something happening, but not a Gleeman dying. This does point that she paid special attention to anything regarding Tom. At a time, there was no way to know for a fact that Tom was with Matt or Rand. Could have also been that she assumed that they could have also just as likely been together as not been together and seen it as a potential lead to Matt and Rand. Okay, so still nothing.
Well, it's also it's also interesting to think about the fact that she specifically put these, and I'm going to use the word like sort of hooks. It's not really hooks. That almost sounds bad in like today's context, but she puts these like hooks into Matt, Rand, and Perrin because she knows that they're people that she's got to pay attention to, and people where it's going to be very helpful for her to know where they are and things like that. It does not talk about her specifically giving Tom anything or putting any kind of ward on Tom or doing anything like that. But I feel like that also might be a moment where she might have done that to Nynaeve or Egwene or Tom or all of the above. And she actually does have some extra information saying that Tom isn't dead. But she's not willing to let the group know that because, again, if you let the group know all of your secrets, you have no more secrets.
They're in the ways. They've already been to Barrelon, correct? So she has met with Min.
Yeah, exactly.
And Min does have a viewing of Tom that points to him being entangled in the weaves of the will along with Rand, Matt, and Perrin.
And of course, I think that according to the books, it is unclear when Min has her viewing about Tom saving Moiraine. Because it might have actually been when they were in Barrelon, and so she really does have this even extra piece of information about, no. Tom's going to save my life. And yeah, it's all like weird and hazy, and Min doesn't know 100% what's going to happen, and she can't tell me, the exact events, but Tom has to still be alive because he can't save me later if he's dead.
Something very, very broad.
So, yeah.
So,
yes, exactly.
You could, we could, Moiraine could have seen that, like I was saying before. She could have seen that in her
So from there, we get
test.
into the Great Hunt. And when Rand sees Tom again, he does ask if Moiraine is with him and does seem to be at least somewhat disappointed when Rand says no. She's not. I don't know where she is. Later in The Dragon Reborn, Matt runs into a drunken Thom and Tar Valon, and while he is drunk, he does talk about Moiraine being a fine-looking woman if it wasn't for all that Aes Sedai business. So here's the very first, very open, very direct, very honest drunken Thom saying, y'all, she fine. She pretty. I don't hate her,
Damn, who that girl you used to walk around
but
with?
it's too bad
that
she's an Aes
Moiraine
Sedai
girl?
because, I don't care for Aes Sedai, because they killed my nephew. Yeah.
But she cray.
I mean, like on the hot crazy scale, like on the hot Aes Sedai scale, she is way too
she's
far
only
in
crazy
this
in as much
direction.
you don't understand.
But like,
it.
I'd think about it. I'd think
I could
about
even-
it.
I could even say that she's got some, or he rather, Thom has got some. She's a fine-looking woman. If it wasn't for all that Aes Sedai, I could almost see him having some admiration. But to kind of quote Billy Joel, should I be a straight A student? If you are, then you think too much. It's one of those like, I don't want to think that much. Like, I almost wonder if Thom is like, oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine competing with this woman. But at the same time, it's like that yin and yang thing, or saidin saidar kind of a thing, where it's like, I don't want to have to work that hard for it, but damn, I'm impressed by how amazing she is. And it's almost like half of him is not willing to admit that he has those feelings, because with the drunken Thom, like, he had just lost someone that he thought he really, really cared about. And he probably did. I'm not, going to say that at all. And he was rather pissed when she was killed.
You made one mistake.
Then we get
girl.
That's right.
No, one more piece of that. I also love how, like, given Matt's feelings on Aes Sedai, I think it almost could be read. And again, this is a little bit hard because it's not specified or whatever. But like, drunken Thom is like, yeah, I'm fucking Moraine's like super cute, and Matt just gives him a look, and then he's like, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for all that like Aes Sedai stuff, like, yeah, no,
like that stereotypical, like, dude,
clearly,
you just said something weird.
like,
look.
fucking. Yeah, no, it's absolutely like one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, like, she's super hot. And the guy gives you a weird look, and you're like, yeah, but like, if she wasn't your sister, like, come on, I wouldn't do that to you.
Well,
but like, you have to be honest, like.
And at this point in time, Matt has also had the experience of dancing with Moiraine, not quite realizing who she is before he made the judgment that, oh dang, this girl be looking, oh my god, it's Moiraine.
This girl got some big old, and it's Moiraine. Oh shit.
And then he's like, all right, next girl. He's like, oh, hey, girl, what's up? It's, oh my god, it's Nynaeve.
Just internal screaming,
Perfect.
just like
Anyway,
just
continue, Andrew.
Well, and I fucking love how
eye bleach. Where's the eye bleach?
You only see the two perspectives. You only see Rand dancing with them and Matt dancing with them, but you know that when Perrin was fucking dancing with them too, he was just internally going,
why me? Why not Rand or Matt? They know how to deal with this. Meanwhile, they're all collectively just
They know how to
screaming
deal with
internally.
women.
Dude, still, without a doubt, my favorite meme on our Discord, and this is just a little preview of what's on our Discord. But the one where there's the two like transcendent beings in like their full armor or whatever, and then it's like boy from Emmons Field who's not, or whose perspective this chapter isn't, other boy from Emmons Field who this chapter perspective isn't, and then there's just the one like little stick figure at the bottom who's just like very like autistically walking around, and it's just like boy from Emmons Field whose perspective this is.
So
it's so good.
Moving on from the Dragon Reborn, we get into the Shadow Rising, and we get to a scene where Moiraine kind of reveals or lays out her Deus Damar cards with Thom. And she's doing so trying to convince Thom to go with Elaine and Nynaeve into Tanchico. And the excerpt says, Her smile was just short of laughter, but she spoke as if reading from a page. Thom Maryland, called the Grey Fox once by some who knew him or knew of him. Court barred at the royal palace of Andor and Camelin. Morghase's lover for a time after Tarangal died. Fortunate for Morghase.
I like how they make
Fortunate
that
for
thing.
Morghase, Tarangal's death. I do not suppose she ever learned he meant her to die and himself to be Andor's first king. But we were speaking of Thom Maryland, man who, it was said, could play the game of houses, or Deus Damar, in his sleep. It is a shame that such a man calls himself a simple gleeman, but such arrogance to keep the same name. And that was Moiraine sitting down, looking at Thom.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I haven't heard that name in so long.
It is Moiraine sitting down, talking to Thom and saying,
Obi-Wan.
You say you can't do this. You say you're a simple gleeman, but you're full of absolute jack shit. And I know it because I know exactly who you are. I know what you've done, and I know what you're capable of. After this exchange, she also tells Thom that she will tell him the names of the sisters or Aes Sedai responsible for Owen's fate. She brings up 2 Tyrian lords that opposed Rand and met with happy little accidents. And she's...
knowing full well what his intentions would be for those Aes Sedai.
Moiraine is basically telling Thom this entire time, I know who you are, I know what you can do, and I know a lot of what you've done. Now, where it becomes...
Well, and especially, like, in that passage right there, she absolutely, without a doubt, accuses him of killing her brother.
But also says, I don't blame you.
Yeah, no, and it's an accusation coming from, no, this was kind of necessary. Like, I know you did it. But at the same time, like, I don't blame you for it. I actually think it was probably the right thing to do. But I know what you did. Most people would absolutely have no idea that you were at all involved in that whatsoever. But I do.
Yeah, I think she's almost showing him that, hey, first off, you're not the only one who can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And second off, I really need your help. But it's almost like a thinly veiled threat along with a request. And
yeah, she uses carrot and stick in equal measure.
Yeah, as sick as that sounds, I think Thom was kind of like, damn, girl.
Yeah, no, while she was threatening him a little bit, he was like, oh, I got a little half chub.
No, nobody has played me like this.
We can't.
Nobody. Not even Aes Sedai.
The thing we can't forget about this interaction is the scale of people it takes place between. These are 2 expert level players of Deus Damar. And just as openly as it could easily be seen as Moiraine trying to blackmail Thom, manipulate Thom, it can very easily, once you look a little bit deeper into it to who they are, be seen as Moiraine expressing a lot of admiration, praise, and even fondness for Thom for the things he's done and capable of.
Mm-hmm.
To go with that, there's many times during this conversation that happens, the Moiraine is kind of fidgeting around, and it looks to the really like she's trying to hide smiles and chuckles to avoid possibly offending Thom. But it could also be that in reality she was hiding, showing her emotions and fondness for Thom because she had such a focus on the mission at hand, the job at hand, what needed to be done. During this entire exchange, after she talks about giving him the names of the Aes Sedai involved with Owen, she also reminds Thom that not all Aes Sedai are alike, hinting that she doesn't want to be seen in the same manner as the Aes Sedai he hates. You know, a kind of, we're all different. Please don't lump me in with the group that you don't hate, the group that did things in a maybe wrong fashion, the group that is responsible for the death of your nephew. We're not the same. Many times Thom refers to Moiraine as a good woman, with that additional thing of, well, you know, if she wasn't an Aes Sedai, you know, she'd be a fantastic woman.
Exactly.
And through all these interactions, there are times that they do frequently talk about their past together, and it's always in a respectful, if not very friendly and familiar manner. And again, a re-emphasis on these conversations take place between two masters of Deus Damar. And given that, they could very easily be openly flirting with each other the entire time, and nobody else around them even have the slightest idea or clue, but they know.
This could be something that might be illustrated in the TV show pretty well, and I'm looking forward to seeing that when we get to it'll probably be season 5 or 6.
So
around
so
when I get on
far,
the show,
we've seen significant indications from Thom that while he does not really care for Aes Sedai, there's something different in his eyes about Moiraine. And we've seen fair number of hints from Moiraine that she thinks of Thom as more than a simple gleeman that's tagged along that's a part of the pattern now. And for me, that brings us to Knife of Dreams, where Thom shows the letter he received from Moiraine, which we have to remember, she only gave out 2 letters. One went to Rand, and the other to Thom. You don't give a letter to somebody you think is just a simple gleeman along for the ride.
To put it into sort of a metaphor here, or not a metaphor, but into perspective rather, Lan didn't get a letter. Lan, who she'd spent the last 20 years with, approximately, day and night as warder in Aes Sedai.
Now there were things for him from these
Swan
letters.
didn't get a letter.
But he did not get a letter. And what she did for him was outside of the letter, and for him and somebody else. But in Knife of Dreams, Thom does show the letter to Mat once Mat has asked about it, as Moiraine stipulates in the letter. And it's in this letter that we get the very first, the very open, very much made clear sign that she has feelings for Thom. Because the letter starts off with, "My dearest Thom." And it goes on to say, "There are many words I would like to write to you, words from my heart." If you can't... That is like Shakespearean love letter 101.
Right, though?
Oh, that is like repressed teenage angst. Just like in a fucking sentence. Like,
and it also points out
hormones as fuck.
It's also very on brand for Moiraine, though, again, because nothing is more important than the mission.
No, it's true. Yeah, agreed.
She sacrificed everything for the mission. And in this case, the mission was finding Rand and protecting him until Tarman got
him.
Yep. I gave my life to saving Rand, and now it's up to you to come and save me because I love you, Thom.
Now, to add credence to all the statements prior to the letter, they pointed at Thom's potential signs of fondness for Moiraine. Fondness, not fondness. That's an old coworker's last name.
Fondness
for Moiraine. She makes the statement and she says, "He," meaning Mat, "does not hold me in the affection you seem to." That is Moiraine saying, "It looks like you feel something for me, and I see it." And for people that play Deus Damar, even for people that don't, that is a very direct assertion of, "I think you like me. Check yes or no." And by the way, the yes is rescuing me from an alternate dimension, basically. But it adds credence to everything before when you look at it through the lens of Masters of Deus Damar talking and interacting and doing all this stuff. It's Moiraine saying, "I love you, and I'm pretty sure you love me too. I don't want to die necessarily. It'd be great if you could check the yes box and come in the Tower of Genji and rescue my ass."
I love you. Yeah. You love me. Come rescue me from the Tower of Genji. So with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you, won't you say you'll kill the Eilfin too?
The thing with that is she kind of says, doesn't she suggest that if he does not come,
basically she says in the letter that the 3 of them have to go. Any less and they all die. Any more and they all die. And even with just those three, there's a chance that they will all or one of them at least die. That she has seen her death, she has seen the party's death, and she has seen them die together in captivity. That it's basically it's a crapshoot, but
Yep.
your best shot if it's just you, Matt, and a man whose name I don't know, who is Noel or Noel, Noal, Noel. Thank you.
Noel.
Who we know is
Noel.
Jane Farstrider reincarnated, spun back out from the wheel. She ends the letter with a very.
Well, and I love, again, that's just
Go ahead.
Sorry, that's just the wonderful idea of, all right, cool. So if you take if you take 4 people, it's 100% chance that we all die. If you take 2 people, there's 100% chance that we all die. If you take 3 people, it's the best chances. It's also like only like a 70% chance. But it's better than 100% chance we all die.
Do you know, one of the things I love about this is the fact that she's seen this in the future, or she's had a vision of this, means that at some point in time, the pattern knows that they need A, her lover, B, Thoraine, and C,
hero
of the horn. So let's just put this into perspective.
Just chew on that for a second.
I did this in the last episode, talking about the mentors, the line of mentors that Rand had throughout the book series, and that Thom had such lofty company as Lan and Bale and Tam, and these Ruark and Tam, and all these just amazing people in their own right. But to put this in perspective again, Thom is in company with one of the most powerful Ta'veren ever to exist, Matt. One of the heroes of the Horn, Jane Farstrider / Noel. And you need to be here. If you're not there, we fail. And that's an amazing thing to put him into that type of position. And they there's been a lot of speculation on Dragonmount and a lot of speculation with the fandom and the fan base and everything, who gets called to serve as a hero of the Horn and blah blah blah.
Tom
blah,
Drill
blah.
Maryland. Are you kidding me?
Tom's there. Matt's there.
For
Tom's
all we know,
there.
Moiraine and Thom
guys.
are already people that have been respun by the wheel. Timeless cycle. All this has happened before.
It's true.
Some kind of either flicker world.
There are thousands.
So
there are thousands of heroes of the Horn. We don't.
So Moiraine
get
ends
all
the
of
letter
them.
with a very.
And we do twice.
So she ends the letter with a very fond goodbye. And for someone that plays Deus Damar, someone that has been doing the politicking that the Blue Aja does, it is heavily laden with hope that she will see Thom again. And right away, Thom is like, I'm going to go rescue her, and you're going to help me, Lord Matt, who doesn't still want to call himself a lord. And I don't give 3 shits. I'm going to make you do it. Because he's got all of this grief in his past life that he has to deal with. And in all of his life leading up to this, rather. He's got the grief of not being able to help his nephew, Owen. He's got the grief of not being there to save Dina, or Donna. Dina, right? D-E, Dina? Yeah.
Dina.
Because I keep wanting to say Deanne, but I know that's not it. So he's got all this grief from not being there, and he wasn't there to protect or save Moiraine from what happened to her. He couldn't have done anything. So he's like, I'm going to do something now. You're going to help me. We're going to do it because she's necessary. And she wouldn't have told us this. There wasn't a fucking point. And even Matt's like, yeah, I don't fucking like it. Bloody Aes Sedai, but you're right. She wouldn't have done all this if there wasn't a point. So they go.
Well, and again, before we even get to the tower, just think about that for a second. Tom's entire life is just full of regrets. He missed out on being able to help so many people. So granted, you can kind of again chalk all of this up to, oh, well, now that he has a chance to help somebody, he's not going to miss out on a chance to help anybody he cares about. But at the same time, again, this is so much circumstantial evidence that Robert Jordan is giving us that, yeah, you can take each and every instance and say, oh, it could be something else. Oh, it could be read this way. Oh, it could be, not what they're saying. And I will admit that the first time I read these books, I kind of took each one of them on face value and tossed them aside, if you will, as far as this
Oh yeah, same here. I
overarching
mean, because
story.
there's nothing to tell
But
you
when
not
you
to.
add all of them up together, the fact that Thom is willing to go to this tower, period, really does show again, Dina, Morghese, Owen, these are all people that he absolutely loved.
That we know of.
And he's
Yes.
not
We don't
gonna
know
let it happen
anybody
again.
else that has been in the same situation in his life that we don't know of, that is in the background, that creates more of
True.
a backstory for Thom to want to do this kind of stuff. No, not even want, to need to do this stuff. So they get to the tower.
But anyway, so
Get
now
to
we
the
get
tower.
to the tower.
They reach Moiraine, and Thom, without hesitation, walks through, like we said in the last episode, almost literal fire to rescue Moiraine, and does so successfully.
I will walk through the fire.
They get out of the tower, Genji.
Should go Melissa Etheridge on that. Anyway,
Dude,
go ahead.
I really, I hope that they don't have a Wheel of Time episode that is entirely a musical, but at the same time, I hope so hard that there's an episode like Once More with Feeling of the Wheel of Time, because holy shit, that would be amazing.
So they get out of the tower of Genji. Moiraine doesn't hesitate in making Thom her new warder, and they both look at Matt and like, "Oh yeah, we're getting married." To which Matt's like, "The fuck? Where did this come from?" Like a lot of the fandom is, where the fuck did this come from? Which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Well, and I almost love in some ways how it feels like Robert Jordan threw Matt in there and threw that, like, what the fuck, as almost a nod to the fandom who wouldn't have gotten it. Where he's like, I know that you
because it's very
see
possible
this
that there were more things and more
Some
scenes that
people
would have
did.
created more of a bond between Thom and Moiraine, but having to fit
Oh, it's
everything
absolutely
else in
true.
with the rest of the series, there just wasn't scene for it.
Exactly.
After this point, until they get to Shao Ghul, Thom and Moiraine are always together. When they do get to Shao Ghul and Moiraine is going into the Pit of Doom with Nynaeve and Rand, guards the entrance both to protect his Aes Sedai and his lover and wife-to-be. And after the battle's done, he does save Moiraine a final time from running off the edge of a cliff. So for me, some final thoughts about their relationship. The biggest complaint that we see is that it seems like it came out of nowhere. That she disappears, and then suddenly, because of a letter, Tom's in love and goes to rescue her. And for me, after rereading the series, after going back through these points and points like them, because obviously this will never be an all-inclusive list of points and interactions.
Of course.
But it makes you look deeper into their interactions and makes the relationship, honestly, to me, no more surprising than the one between Lan and Nynaeve. The main difference being the extremely, extremely subtlety of the relationship's growth between Thom and Moiraine in that long span of time where there's no opportunity for the two to be together. There's a massive chunk of time that Lan and Nynaeve are not together. They're not able to talk. They're not able to converse. And if you want to call it on-screen time or on-page time, there are developments that make it clear that there's a love interest growing, but there's not necessarily a whole lot of on-screen push behind those moments. It almost seems like for Nynaeve, she goes from just a focus on hating Moiraine, and by virtue of hating her, watching to make sure she doesn't do anything fucked up, and that keeps her around Lan, and then it grows and grows and grows until eventually, the events happen where Lan saves her. She's, gotten rid of her block, and they do wind up together.
Do you know what? I'm sorry, are you done? Go ahead, finish what you were going to say. Sorry. Well, because I was just thinking as far as my final thoughts, I want to say that after discussing this, the Thom Moiraine ship, I ship it hard because both of these characters are experts in subtlety. Experts, masters in the great game of houses. So these two people could probably get married, have 12 kids, divorced, and commit murder, and you'd never know. So for them to all of a sudden fall in love, like, you know, when we get to Knife of Dreams, we're at the end of the story. Well, we're getting to the end of the story where these guys are like, yeah, there's not much use for Dias Damara anymore. Right now, it's just basically we've got to, we've got to marshal our forces and start marching to Tarman Gaiden. That's basically all there is to do. They can see that. So the subtlety, the veiled intentions, all those things sort of drop, especially inside of each other. So I almost wonder, I'm going to say that I ship it hard because, again, masters of subtlety, masters of maneuvering and manipulation. And when you get to the end of the story, it's almost as if they're saying, this is the eve of battle, and tomorrow I die. So tonight I eat, drink, and be merry. I tell that person I love them. I tell that person how I feel about them. I express my feelings. I let down all pretense and all my walls. And I really feel like this is a really great means of a really great device to set the tone for the last battle. And I will say my position on this has been completely reversed. I think it's perfect. I think this relationship between them is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And my final thoughts very much echo that, in terms of the fact that, again, Josh brings up a nice point, and I was thinking about that while we were talking about it. This is and they lived happily ever after situation, because we don't know anything that happened after sort of the last battle. And so in the end, Thom and Moiraine don't necessarily even need to stay together. Now, I think they do. It's likely that they do. But at the same time, they have like a year, maybe as much as a year and a half, of just really deep, traumatic events that they go through with a number of other people. And we know that human nature in a lot of ways is actually to form bonds incredibly quickly and incredibly deeply when you are in traumatic times and when you're going through something difficult. And so the fact that these two have such a seamed admiration for each other when they're on screen or on page, and then we just don't really watch them that much when they're off screen or off page. And then there is a lot of truth to that, absence makes the heart grow fonder to a certain extent, that when that connection is cut short,
yes,
it makes sense that both of them would deepen that up until the point where they get back together. Because again, absence makes the heart grow fonder is really problematic for people in long-term relationships, because too much absence makes the heart grow
too much absent?
fizzled.
Oh.
Too much absence.
I need more absinthe in my life.
But you stay apart too long, and it actually is detrimental. But you stay apart for a short amount of time, which again, in the story, presumably the entire events happen between it happens somewhere between 2 and 3 years apart. And Moraine's there for the vast majority of the first 2 years. And then is gone for a relatively short amount of time in world. It's not terribly surprising that they would make incredibly strong connections and then keep those strong connections when Moiraine suddenly disappears from, Thom's life and whatnot. It's very much that, almost dead yesterday, almost maybe dead tomorrow, but alive, gloriously alive, and in love today.
So I did have
Perfect.
one absolute final point for me that I think helps tie any remaining doubts off.
Really ties the room
Well,
together.
it makes the blues mixed with the reds, and the gleaming with the multicolored cloak mixed with our favorite blue Aja sister.
All right.
So
Giggity, giggity.
after
All right.
receiving Moraine's letter, he never ever once even considers going against what the letter says to do and what is to come. For this to happen, for Thom
Truth.
to have this amount of faith and adherence to the letter, has to show an enormous amount of trust and respect for the Aes Sedai. Not as a group, but as Moiraine as an individual. And this is something that couldn't have happened
Yes.
ever without a significant relationship being formed beyond the surface level of what we see just by reading through the series. To me, this is the ultimate point that ties together that there was so much going on between these two masters of yesssssss, these two bastions of what subtlety is, that it ties everything together to where,
Yes.
for us, Thom and Moiraine might have said hi in passing. But for them, it could have meant, and probably did mean, so much more. For, like you talked about, whenever Rand had taken over
Volumes.
Tyr,
Yes.
and they were in the Stone of Tyr, and Thom and Moiraine were both working together, playing Deus Damar with the Lords of Tyr to keep Rand in power, to help Rand's power grow. It's obvious that they're both fighting for the same goal. They both would have realized this, and it would have reassured Thom that Moiraine isn't here to pull any of that Aes Sedai trickery on Rand or his group. She's here because she sees that something is happening, and she sees that these gentlemen, these young boys, are crucial for it to play out in the way where people continue to survive. And so that's going to dispel 90% of Thom's distrust for Moiraine right off the bat. So
Truth.
it's one of those things that on a surface level read, on a one-time read, even a second time read around, it's easy to miss because the series is so long and this happens over the course of the entire series. Even when Moiraine is gone. That it takes something like this where you go back and you look through the events of the series, through what could have led, what hinted at, what were the possibilities that led to these two individuals coming together at the end of the series. And to me, going through it like that makes it make so much more sense than it ever did just reading the series. And like Josh has said, I ship
Love
it
it.
fucking hard as fuck, bro. It's almost like
It's
you
true.
look at it through
Yeah,
this,
I
and
just
it's like,
have
well,
So
Absolutely.
I can see where you guys are coming from, but how else could this have gone? Who else could Thom have ever been with long term?
It's-
Who else could Moiraine
nobody.
have fallen in love with and entrusted her life fully, not just in protection, but in that legacy of love to go forth from the end of the series? Who else could it have been? Because when you look at it like this and you see what happens with Lan and Nynaeve, you realize,
Nobody.
yeah, there were times where it could have been Lan. That Lan and her could have been a thing, but it would never have amounted to what it does amount to between Thom and Moiraine.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just too much difference between Thom and Lan. I love Lan, don't get me wrong. But Lan is, yeah, there's just too much.
Yeah. And I just have
So-
one absolute final thought, and it goes along with the subtlety of all of this. And I'm going to bring back for just a moment the movie quotes thing that we once did on this podcast, and that is, as you wish.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining in. I believe we've covered this topic 6 ways from Sunday. And if
Maybe
you
even
think,
7.
maybe even 7, if you think we've missed something, please jump on our Discord. Come in there and say, hey, y'all missed this. Or hit us up on Twitter at Tower Podcast. You can say to us that we missed something, or that you thought we had an interesting point, but maybe you disagree. Maybe you totes agree, and you want to tell us that you agree. I don't care. Talk to us. We're lonely. But we love you. Come
Uh,
in there. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your love. Please hang out with us.
Yes, and also just to let you guys know, we did try to go ahead and put together a better structure for this podcast. Didn't totally work. We did actually go over what we thought we would, but it's not a 4-hour episode like we've been known to do on occasion. So if you like this a little bit better than the talk as it comes style, or if you like the that other go on as many tangents as you want, talk about whatever is in your head kind of thing, let us know. Again, on Twitter is a great place to tell us that. On our Discord is a great place to tell us that. On our email at blacktowerpod@gmail.com is a great place to tell us that. If you feel like we were wrong about something, if you feel like we were right about something, anything, we want to know from you guys, because again, not only are we lonely, but we're also perfectionists. So if we're not doing it perfect, we want you to tell us so that we can get it perfect for next time. So if you have anything to say, please
and ultimately, guys, remember, we love all of you. The Black Tower will always offer shade for those who need it. You are always welcome in our hold, even though it's far from the IO waste and in Andor, but it is what it is. So, stay strong. Keep practicing exploding your boulders, because we always need new stone for the walls. And we will see you guys next time. For those of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, I am Andrew.
I am Josh.
And I am Daniel. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.